Welcome to the Dork Forest. Jackie and her pals will never bore us. Shameless confessions
about our obsession
will make us laugh and smile. So let's explore the Dork Forest and dork out for a while.
2023, you guys, and I'm winging it. Hi, it's Jackie Cation. Welcome to the Dork Forest. That's the website, The Dork Forest, if you like a determiner. Dorkforest.com also works. JackieCation.com has all of my stand-up information. Like, it has videos, it has pictures, it has links to this podcast and to my other podcast with Lori Kilmartin. It has a merch store that has Dork Forest t-shirts. It has all of my stand-up merch and all of my CDs and DVDs. So, that's what you know about websites. There's an opportunity because we're in the new year here that you can donate to the Dork Forest. I don't have a Patreon. I don't have anything really set up, though I understand you can set up on PayPal a monthly if you wanted to. You could donate and be of to support the show. This is the 17th season, the 17th year I've been putting this stuff out. It's free, but if you have money and would like to throw me some money, boy, howdy. There's a PayPal. There is at my email address, actually, Jackie@JackieCation.com, which you can also email me and tell me how much you're enjoying the show. You can also do Venmo if you'd like, which is just Jackie Cation. No hyphen, all one word. Picture of this person, me, and then I think that's it. I think I have Zelle, but it's too complicated. Other than that, let's do the credits. Patrick Brady still in, fixing the audio all these years later. Give it up to Patrick Brady. That's what a lot of your donations support, by the way, because I like to share the wealth. And then Bill Mose, he does the websites, and Mike Ruekberg wrote and sang that song, composed and sang that song with his wife now, Sarah. And at the end, he sings the Mexican hat dance, which is always fun. Anyway, I'm sure there's more to it. There's a Bandcamp that has a bunch. It has like a stand-up storytelling album that was never released. There's also a bunch of live episodes that many of them are free. There were 200 episodes that were not pre-recorded, and I sort of culled through those, and I pulled like 17 of the best ones. There's an album collection of that, 17 hours of Dork Forest. If you run through all of the episodes, go to bandcamp.com, Dork Forest, or Google those words, and you'll find it. Anyway, there's probably more. I can't remember any of it, but you're doing great. Feel free to enjoy the show.
Yes! Ladies and gentlemen, Rangers of the Dork Forest. It's me in my garage, Jackie Cation. And with me, a Ranger of the Dork Forest. Carolyn, is it Carolyn Kahn?
Carolyn Kahn.
That's a great name, Carolyn Kahn, who has nothing to plug except for other people's stuff. So Carolyn Kahn, who will be talking to me about horror musicals, that's the Dorkdom. And when you sent me your list, I was like, oh, those musicals. Anyway, because I was like, what could they be? And then I read them and I was like, oh, I know some of those. So yes, so I get it. So Carolyn Kahn, but you have your partner, your husband is a young man, a man by the name of Joel, and he does music. So people should find Average Joel, Joel, on Facebook or Reverb Nation. And that will be Carolyn Kahn's husband. You guys go check out his music. You may like it. It may be the dream come true. And then you're also working on a scary thing for your local art center, and it's called Hop Arts Center, HOPARTSCENTR.org. It'll be in the notes. But what are you going to do for the haunt?
Well, we did our first haunt last year, and if you have a good haunt, it's the same thing of having a good play. The best haunts are not the ones where you have somebody jumping out with a chainsaw. It's the ones that give you a story. Last year, we did this whole big thing with on the theme of folk horror. Okay. And what I mean by that is we live near what's known as the Bridgewater Triangle in Massachusetts. And there's a lot of creepy things that have happened over the years. I'm not kidding. There have been sights of like a antlered creature. There's been an owl creature that's been seen. There's been a lot of aliens that have supposedly been seen. So we took all the stories and we turned it into basically a theatrical piece where you're walking through the woods and you were running into some of these items.
Oh, cool. Yeah, that
And
sounds super,
year-
that sounds super fun.
Last year was our first haunt, and because it went so well and we raised so much money for the organization, we're going to do a bigger one this year. We actually have sponsors this year. Yay!
All right. Yeah.
And
That's
if
awesome.
people want to, if people who are interested in going to a haunt or seeing something scary, start looking at our website in August.
Right. And that website is hopartscenter.org. Okay. So you have horror musicals, and the reason you're into horror musicals is, of course, because they're a delight, but you were also raised in a very, very theater nerd family. So I kind of like that. I mean, you never hear about people from Rhode Island. You know they must exist. But you were raised in Rhode Island?
Yep, I was raised in, and I'm going to say it properly, Cranston, Rhode Island. If you're from Rhode Island, that's how you say it. If anybody else would say Cranston, but if you grew up there, it's Cranston.
Cranston. They add a V for some reason.
Yes.
In Milwaukee, we lose the L, so it'll happen. Okay.
My family has been all the people in my family have been involved in the arts, but my dad was for about 50 years was very, very involved with the community theater scene in Rhode Island. And so myself and my sisters, we grew up on listening to show tunes for everything. I think that I could actually do most of 1776 at about age 3 or 4.
Who stinketh most? Who stinketh most? Remember that, the molasses to rum or something like that?
Oh,
remember
yeah.
That song? Yes.
But the other thing that my dad taught me how to do all the technical stuff for theater. His feeling was, you're close to the ground. You're much closer to the ground than I am. Let me explain how you run cables for sound. Let me explain how you can put together the bulbs in a park can for the lighting.
Okay.
And so I do a lot of around here, and part of how I ended up with Hopkins Center of the Arts and the Milford Chorus and the Coughlin Symphony is I help people do tech, like sound, lighting, etc.
Okay.
But the other thing my dad was really into was horror.
Horror. Okay.
Rhode Island is the birthplace and the location for most of the stories by H.P. Lovecraft.
Oh, he was a piece of, right. He was a great storyteller, but
not a great person, but a great
right. He was problematic as a person, but and I don't know, what do you think of his prose? I thought it was a little dense for me, but I like the people who were able to take like a lice comb and get the good bits out of it and turn it into really good stories.
Well, I grew up right by what's known as Tuxet Village. And that is where a lot of the story, the case of Charles Dexter Ward takes place.
Okay.
And at age 12, reading that and then being close enough that you're waking up at night because you're like, did I hear a slimy thud outside?
Right. So it was easy. You found it easy to read because you started reading it early on. Mm-hmm. Is that maybe because I started too late, I think, to not criticize the prose, I think, because I think the stories are really, really cool and his character creations are amazing, but I had a hard time reading the actual original content. But H.P. Lovecraft, there's I've done several episodes about H.P. Lovecraft. I've learned more every time, and it is something that that is kind of cool. But so you started reading that when you were 12.
Yes.
And so horror musicals, they're not I mean, when I was thinking horror musicals, I was thinking more slash and burn kind of stuff. But musicals
They're-
by their nature are kind of fun.
It depends on what you're doing. If you're most of the best horror musicals, as I put it, have some camp to them.
Yeah. Which kind
I
of
mean,
lightens the load, which I kind of like. Yeah.
if you really think about it, I mean, first one I want to mention is Sweeney Todd.
Oh, right. Which is actually
that's
kind of the scariest of them.
Well, one of the scariest, but that's one of my favorites. It's been one of my favorites since I was like 11 or 12, because that's when I started listening to it. But still, it's Sondheim. It's
Okay.
considered a traditional classic musical that just happens to also be slitting people's throats, cannibalism.
What makes it a classic musical? Just the sort of the structure of it or something?
A lot of it, yes. Because you have the way it starts out, you have somebody coming back to England full of hope that things are going to be better. And most classic musicals, you get the person who's traveling, who they have a hope. But Sweeney Todd turns it on its ear, because yes, he finds his daughter that was missing, but he finds out his wife is dead. Sorry, spoilers for anybody who might not know, but I'm hoping anybody who's listening to a horror musical podcast probably knows.
Right. Spoiler alert, all of these horror musicals will be discussed at length. And Sweeney, it's sort of like Soylent Green. We all know the secret of Sweeney Todd,
yes.
and that there were people baked into pies.
Yes.
Now I have created also the biggest spoiler. But so is it, I don't remember the beginning of Sweeney Todd. Was it always a musical?
Yes.
Okay.
It's based off, actually, before Sondheim turned it into a musical, it was actually first a straight play for the British theater. It was the story was, at least, and it was done as one of the what's the term? Music hall shows.
Oh, okay.
Because you'd have people in the cheap seats yelling like, "Look behind you," and he's after you, and booing and hissing. So
here's my question. So did you see Sweeney Todd as a production or just the movie?
I've seen it both as a production and the movie. I would honestly say, if you haven't seen it as a production, they have the one with Len Carew and Angela Lansbury as Mrs. Lovett.
Okay.
It's on PBS on a fairly regular basis, and that there are going to be people who will fight me on this. I think Angela Lansbury was the best Mrs. Lovett.
Okay.
However, there is a whole group who thinks Patti LuPone was the best Mrs. Lovett, and there will be people fighting about that.
Okay. So, and what makes Angela Lansbury such a great Mrs. Lovett?
Because
besides that, she brings her Angela Lansbury-ness to it.
Yes, but it's still, you're talking about somebody who's a sociopath, but she's a likable sociopath.
Is the other actress not as likable in your opinion?
Patti LuPone plays it a little more evil.
Okay.
Or at least in my thoughts. Same way,
okay.
Helena Bonham Carter in the movie version played her a little more evil than, like almost a playful sociopath.
Okay.
And that's something that, I'm sorry, it's just my opinion to all the other right-wing nerds out there.
Oh no, this is your dorkdom. You get to like who you like, and then they can go. Well,
there is a fabulous song in the original. They do a shortened version in the movie version with Johnny Depp, Helena Bonham, that is called "A Little Priest," and that is right out of almost the old school British music hall, where you would have like musical comedy.
Oh, a lot of physical
that
stuff,
is-
or
Not really physical, but really it's musical comedy talking about baking people into pies. I mean, they have, there's a lot of wordplay in that song.
okay,
You
so
know-
the lyrics themselves.
Yeah, I mean, there is a line in the song which is, you know, the trouble with poet is, how do you know it's deceased? Try the priest. And I have a friend who is a poet who every
Okay.
once in a while I will sing that line at them.
Of course you have a friend who's a poet, Carolyn Kahn. Of course you do. You're surrounded by artisans. And so that's that did that line make it into the movie, or they just did a shortened version that
They did a much shorter version of it. In the actual musical that was on Broadway, the songs are longer in the Broadway version versus the one that was on in the movie.
okay.
And in some cases, I'm not 100% sure, and it might, some of it, the shortening of the songs might also be that the people in question might not have been able to hit all the notes if they did the whole song.
Right. There's such a difference between like theater performers and movie stars, obviously, and the training of the voices. Because with movie stars, it's great when they can sing, but sometimes they can just sing. You know, they're not like these trained sort of operatic.
Yes.
Yeah. So Helena Bonham Carter sings in the movie.
Yes, she does.
Huh. All right. I feel like I saw that movie, but it's a scary story if I remember correctly. Everybody's
Yes,
so
it is.
happy about putting people into pies that I was made uncomfortable. So
But
but it was very well done.
this is the one though that got me into the whole idea of, hey, there are musicals out there that can be scary and can be, you know, yes, it's scary, but because it's musical, it can still be fun.
Right. It's fun, and it was funny. I mean, whenever, like, Sondheim was
Yes.
an incredibly witty writer, so it's usually very witty, right?
Yes.
What are your other favorite songs of that one? And then we can move on to the next one, because you gave me a list as long as my arm here, which is I love that.
Okay. And the other one is, there is another song that is both in the movie and in the stage show that's called The Worst Pies in London. And that
Okay.
is before they start baking people into pies.
Mhm.
They do, when he originally finds her pie shop, she spends a whole song talking about how, come in, but just to let you know, I can't cook. These are horrible. Here, have some ale because you're gonna need it to kill the taste. And it's like, goes back and forth between, you have to try
What?
this and it's terrible. And if you think about it, it's like, why would somebody normal, why would somebody who does not have major mental issues be telling you, come in, eat this,
Come into my
terrible.
place of work. Come into my place of work. So wait, so talk to me about, so I'm gonna have to, okay, Angela Lansbury.
Yes.
Is Angela Lansbury Sweeney Todd's wife?
No, she
Okay.
is Mrs. Lovett.
Okay.
She becomes his partner in crime. In fact, after he kills the first person, which is Pirelli, and he's trying to figure out what to do with the body of
Right.
Pirelli, she goes, you know what? There's a meat shortage.
Right, meat's expensive.
We can take care of this without having to, you know, we don't have to worry about the body. I'll take care of it. There's a great
Wow.
line that she does, which is, you know, do you get my drift?
Uh-huh.
You know,
Did he get her drift?
after
Does
a
he-
few minutes of her singing, yes.
And is he also a psychopath? Like, does he eat the pie? Does she eat the pies? Do they eat the pies?
They never say whether or not the two of them do, But
Okay.
his whole thing is this poor man, because Judge Turpin, who I will tell you, the one thing that I loved about the movie version was Alan Rickman did the judge.
Oh God, all things Alan Rickman touched turned into gold.
Yes. And he was, as much as I was like, I don't know if he can sing, he was fantastic as Judge Turpin in the movie. He was, and the whole thing is, the story of Sweeney Todd is he's coming back from having been in the penal colony in Australia.
Okay.
He was sent over. His original name was Benjamin Barker. He changed his name and snuck back into Britain to find out what happened, because the judge made up a charge and sent him to the penal colony because he wanted Sweeney Todd's wife.
Oh, okay.
When Benjamin Barker / Sweeney Todd manages to get back to England, he finds out that his wife went mad because the judge, after he was sent to Australia, basically had his way with her.
Right.
His daughter is now a ward of the judge, and not only a ward of the judge has decided that he wants to marry his ward.
Oh God.
So it gets into really creepy with that.
Yeah.
And then he gets told by Mrs. Lovett that his wife killed herself. At that point, he decides, that's it.
Fuck
I
it.
have no mercy for anybody. I'm going to get revenge on the people who are involved. I'm going to kill them.
Okay. And that's when he starts killing people. And Lovett is Mrs. Lovett is the one who's like, oh, I'll take that meat off your hands.
Yes.
But he's just been sort of driven mad by his
I
wife and daughter.
I don't even think he's mad. I think he just gets to the point. There is an incredible song in the musical. It's right near the end of the first act, called Epiphany. And the whole thing is, he realizes it's going to be hard for him to take revenge, but he still wants to do revenge. But why stop at the judge? Why stop at the beetle, who is another name for the policeman?
Okay.
You know what? Most people deserve to die. Everybody,
And you don't think that he's gone mad? I think that's not an epiphany, that's him snapping.
Yes, but there's a whole thing with it that he starts to justify killing people.
Yeah.
So
that's okay. So those are and then does he sort of come to his own? Should we because I can't remember how it ends.
There's a lot of dead people.
Right, a serious number of dead people. But
including Mrs. Lovett, including Sweeney Todd.
Oh, they both die. But
yes.
who will cook them? Who will cook them into a pie?
Nobody. It's actually, there's a whole side story with an orphan who Mrs. Lovett ends up taking care of when he figures out what happened, because Sweeney Todd ends up finding out that his wife hadn't died. She had been a beggar woman, and who ended up being one of his casualties. And when he finds out that, wait a minute, she was still alive, if Mrs. Lovett had been honest with him, that's when he kills Mrs. Lovett, and the young man who Mrs. Lovett had taken in and who loved her then kills Sweeney Todd, and it ends with the young man sitting there like looking at the bodies and the blood.
Oh, and
it's not a cheerful ending.
Not a cheerful ending. It would be cheerful if he decides to go into the baking industry. Wow. And can he sing?
Yes.
Does he sing?
Yes. Toby is always done as a very high tenor.
Okay.
There's actually a great song that he does, which is called Not When I'm Around. And You've probably heard it, just didn't realize it was from the musical, because
Okay.
everybody has covered this. I think, actually, what's his face? Michael Bublé has covered this.
Oh, wow.
I think.
I kind of like Michael
I think
Bublé. He kind of makes me laugh.
But it's a beautiful song if you don't realize that it comes from a musical about killing people and turning them into pies. But the whole thing is like, nothing's going to harm you as long as I'm around. You know, no matter what happens, I will be there for you. I will love you. I will care for you.
Okay. That's hilarious. Okay. I think we've covered Sweeney Todd to some extent, because we're 25 minutes into the damn thing.
Oh,
and
wow.
yeah, I know. It goes very, very quickly, Carolyn Kahn. What do you want to go to next? Do you want to go to the classics, or do you want to go to something I've never heard of?
How about we go to what I call horror light? And this
Horror
is
light.
for,
Okay.
and the reason I say that is there are a couple of musicals out there right now that if you you're like, I really want to do something spooky, but I want to be able to bring my kids to it.
Okay. Not Sweeney Todd. That's what has been implied.
Two
here.
that I
Yes.
can, the two that I think would be are some of the best are the Addams Family, which is a musical.
Okay. Wait,
In fact,
is there a new TV show called Wednesday?
Yes.
Okay,
It has
so
nothing
that's
to do with Wednesday.
what?
But it's nothing to do with the TV show.
No, not at all.
But
It's more based on the original TV show from the late 60s, early 70s, right? Okay.
the people, Morticia was played by Bebe Neuwirth, and Gomez was actually Nathan Lane in the Broadway production.
Okay. Was there a movie of it, or is it? Am I going to PBS again?
You're going to PBS for this one.
It is only a musical play. I like it. Okay.
And the same thing goes with, this is another one of those ones that started out as a movie, and because nobody has an original thought, turned it into a musical. Beetlejuice.
Oh, okay. Next up on ice. So I want a horror musical on ice, please. Beetlejuice, that was Michael Keaton, right?
Originally.
Okay.
For the Broadway version, the ghost is played by Alec Braitman.
Okay.
Who, ironically, is also, I actually did not know this till very recently. There is a new musical. It's not anywhere near like Broadway, off Broadway yet, but it's called Goosebumps, the musical, which is actually geared towards younger people.
Wait, the books, the tweeny books? The
Yes.
little books for the tweens?
Yes.
All right.
They actually have they have a cast recording of it on Apple Music, which is how I found
Goosebumps, the
it.
musical. Okay.
Yes, and the guy who plays Beetlejuice in the Broadway version of Beetlejuice, Alec Braitman, was one of the people in that. He played the spooky janitor Emil.
Okay.
But I mean, this is what I mean. There are different levels when you're looking at horror musicals.
Yeah.
Things like the Addams Family and Beetlejuice, they're spooky. Beetlejuice, the only thing I would say is you might want to go with slightly older kids, and that's more for the language than
anything else.
Yeah, but there's ghosts, there's the netherworld, like you remember from the movie. They're still doing the Deo song.
Okay. You know, I never saw Beetlejuice. I've heard of it. It might have been a bad half a decade where I didn't go see any sort of movies. He plays a ghost in a hospital. Is that anything?
No, not a hospital. He is
Okay.
haunting the house. It starts off with the Maitlands, who own the house. They're a nice couple. They're childless. They're debating on whether or not to have a kid, and they die. and they end up haunting their own house. Well, the people who move in, they don't like the new people who moved in. They think they're nothing like them. And they
Okay.
want to haunt them to get them out of their house.
Okay.
And what happens is they end up calling on Beetlejuice to help them. He's known as a bioexorcist.
Okay. Yeah, bioexorcist. Okay.
And the whole thing is, and there's also the whole thing with them becoming friends with the daughter of the family, Lydia, who is, she puts it, I myself am dark and unusual, dark and unusual. So
Right.
that's why he can see the ghosts, and because she believes in these things.
Okay.
There are, in both musicals, both Addams Family and Beetlejuice, two of the main themes going on are actually family and the importance of family and death.
Okay. Okay. So a little bit of Coco.
Yeah.
But not. Coco was a musical. Did you see that? The Pixar,
The Disney
the one
movie,
about
yes.
the Disney movie? Yeah. That was entirely about it wasn't particularly
Yeah.
scary, of course. It was I wouldn't say that was horror. That was more a cultural exploration
Yeah.
of how Mexico deals with death.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But there's a whole thing with like Beetlejuice. The whole thing is there is a big difference from the musical versus the movie, which is the whole thing. It starts in the musical that Lydia's mother has passed, and it starts at the funeral. And the big song of the musical is called "The Whole Being Dead Thing."
Okay, that's funny. Yeah.
And it's sung by Beetlejuice, and it's all about, this is a musical, this is a show about death, because it's coming for everybody.
Right.
We should be talking about it. We should be thinking about it, because it's inevitable.
Right.
And it doesn't matter what you do with your life. It's going to happen. So you have to think about it, and the same thing goes with the Addams Family. The Addams Family takes place. One of the main things about it is they have the night that the last leaf falls off the tree. In the fall, the veil basically opens up. So you have, as Gomez says, living, dead, and undecided join for a day.
Okay.
And because of what's going on in Addams Family, which is the daughter Wednesday has fallen in love with somebody who is a normal person.
Dun dun dun.
He and his parents are coming to the house. Uncle Fester tries to get the ghost to help keep everything calm and keep it so that the normal guy's parents don't have a total freak out and say, no, you have to, you guys have to separate.
Mm-hmm.
And the whole thing is the ghost can't leave until this gets resolved.
Okay.
So there's a lot of, and that one, there's a lot of, slapstick. There's Cleopatra, the man-eating plant in it. There's a squid who likes to hug people in that.
Okay, so the Addams Family could be for like 8-year-olds who like the idea of something scary.
Yeah.
But Beetlejuice, you think closer to like 11 or 12.
Yes. Yeah. And Beetlejuice has, if you like snark, there are.
Oh my God, the love of sarcasm. Yes.
There are a couple of songs in that I think you in particular would absolutely love. There's one called Girl Scout.
Okay.
And the whole thing is, it's a Girl Scout going around to sell cookies for the first time. And she's got a heart condition. And that's the whole thing, because she's talking about, I want to sell cookies for the first time. My parents haven't let me go out before because they're worried because I have arrhythmia. And what does she do? She ends up at the house with Beetlejuice and Lydia.
Yep.
There are a lot of really good lines that are a little snarky. Like one of the lines is, why don't you come inside? Really can't. Why? Pedophile.
Oh, right. Okay.
And
so,
but and the next line from that is, well, but it's cold and you don't seem mean and nobody gets molested by a gothy teen.
Oh, there you go.
And that's a
Gothy
line
teen.
in the song.
That's very
then-
funny.
Beetlejuice pretty much almost kills her by scaring her. Next.
Right, he said bioexorcist.
Yes.
So that's
But-
going to be his jam. Yeah.
But like I said, these are ones that they're spooky. And if you have a family, you know, like you have family members who like scary stuff, but you want to go to you want to see a show where you don't have to worry as much about bringing the rest of the family. Those two
Right.
would not be bad.
Okay.
I do want to do the next one because there is a reason,
Yes.
and that is Jekyll and Hyde.
Yeah, I wondered about that. There's a musical version of Jekyll and Hyde. Is this just a play as well? Just a live performance?
This is a musical. It's been around since the 90s. It actually started as a concept album. Then it actually toured before it went to Broadway.
Okay.
There are several songs in that, you know, basically they are absolutely gorgeous. This is another one. I'll be honest. My husband, he is not a horror fan.
Okay.
However, he is the one who introduced me to this one.
Okay.
Because the music is so gorgeous.
Oh, okay. Because he liked the music so much. By the way, if you go to Facebook and you look up Average Joel, you can find out what his music is like. You could also go to Reverb Nation, Average Joel. Thank you very much. Okay. Back to Carolyn Kahn, everybody.
But it is the story of Jekyll and Hyde. It is by Frank Wild. The person who wrote it was Frank Wildhorn. He has written a lot of darker musicals. He also wrote Dracula the musical.
Okay.
This is for the comic book people out there. He's written Death Note the musical.
Okay.
Which has not been performed in the US yet, but it has been performed over in Korea. And I believe it's also going to be in Vietnam.
Oh, wow. All right.
But yeah, we're talking Death Note, the musical. If you like, comic books and things.
All right.
But Jekyll and Hyde is probably one of the most complex shows because it is one actor who plays both Jekyll and Hyde.
Sure.
And there is a song near the end called Confrontation, which he sings towards a mirror, doing both parts at once. Which
Wow.
I still have no idea how they can pull that off.
Oh, that's
I have-
amazing. Who is that actor? Do you remember?
There has been a couple of different people who have played. Chuck Wagner has played him. Anthony Warhol, which I think is like one of the princes of Broadway.
Okay.
He is so good in anything he's done. But the funny one though is you can actually find they did a recording of Jekyll and Hyde on Broadway that you can actually purchase on Amazon,
Okay.
which had the strangest person you could ever imagine playing Jekyll/Hyde, David
I hope-
Hasselhoff.
Oh my gosh. Would never have gone there. Absolutely would never have thought you were about to say David Hasselhoff. I was hoping for Alan Rickman.
No, unfortunately. But
That would have been amazing.
and the funniest part with that is at the end of the show when they're taking the curtain call, he actually says, thank you. I've come a long way from the beach in a talking car.
Oh my God.
Yes, I'm not kidding.
Right. So he's not above some pandering, David Hasselhoff.
No.
Good for him. Honestly, I want to be pandered to. If I'm a giant fan of somebody, please, I want a chance to cheer at the fact that you were in Charmed. I want to hear it, Alyssa Milano. Talk to me about it.
Yeah.
Anyway, so
But
yeah, that's hilarious. And that's the one that's available on Amazon.
I believe it's on Amazon. If not, you can probably find it, like somewhere else online. But I do know that there is the recording out there for that.
The
I've
one
also
that
seen it. I've also seen it at Comic Cons too.
okay, the one that you mentioned that made me think about that the way you described Anthony Warhol, that's the one I kind of want to see.
Yes.
And are you going to go to Comic Con this year, San Diego?
Not San Diego. I go local. I go to Rhode
Yeah.
Island Comic Con.
You are
It-
shrewd because it's hundreds of thousands of people in San Diego. I'm told. I haven't been since the early 2000s. So,
And I actually a couple of years ago got to meet at Rhode Island Comic Con 3 of the people that are in the next musical. At least
cool.
the movie version, which is a couple of years ago, I got to meet Meatloaf, Barry Boswick, and Tim Curry. So I
Wait a
think
minute.
you can guess which musical.
There's only 2. I'm going to guess that that's Rocky Horror.
Yep.
Oh, good.
And
I was
Rocky
like, as soon as
Horror
I
is-
said it, I was like, no, it's Evil Dead. Okay, so Rocky Horror. I've actually seen that one a couple of times.
and that one is one that people always forget was actually a stage musical first.
Oh, was Tim Curry in the stage musical by any chance?
Yes, he is the person who created the role of Dr. Frankenfurter.
Okay.
He was in it, and the person who wrote the musical was in both the original cast in London and in the movie, which is Richard O'Brien, who this is kind of, I'm going to say it, but I'm also going to say I've heard it from some sources, but I have not gotten it confirmed that it's actually true. The man who wrote Rocky Horror wrote the musical without actually knowing exactly how to write music. He knew how to play guitar. He knew how to play, but he wasn't sure how to write it down.
Okay, so he could play it, but he needed someone else to scribe it.
Yes. And I have to show this because it is part of my dorkdom and it's something that most people have never really seen. This is this is an original book from the musical, which has all the pictures from the original London cast in it, and it has all the sheet music.
Oh my gosh. All right.
So
Can you play sheet music? Can you play an instrument?
oh no, I do not play. I sing
Okay.
I do sing with a chorus. I do when I've done shows, I have done music. I've been in musicals, but I cannot play an instrument to save my life.
Well,
but
I like you said sheet music in such a way that made me go, she'd have that sheet music unless she liked to play it. But I myself just bought a sing-along music book that had the sheet music, and I haven't played an instrument in decades. So yeah. And I didn't, my music reading days would have to be violently refreshed. Like I would have to be shaken to remember. I can say G clef out loud. How about that? Treble clef. I know it. Go ahead.
the reason I have this book though is my husband actually had auditioned for Rocky Horror when they did the revival on Broadway, and he got pretty far into that.
Okay. Well, what does he play? What does average Joel play?
Oh, my husband primarily plays the guitar. However, he's one of these crazy people who also plays saxophone, he can play the drums, he can play what is the thing? Auto harp.
Okay.
He keeps going, hey, that looks cool. Let me learn how to play it. And he's one of these people who actually can do that.
And loves and just likes the idea of having a new instrument to fiddle around with. Well, that's kind of neat. All right. Well, that's cool. So what do you love about Rocky Horror? What's your favorite thing? Where's the horror in Rocky Horror? I've actually never I was never scared. I was made uncomfortable.
Part of it is that, this one you also have, the mad scientist. You have a murder happen. Eddie gets killed. Eddie is then turned into dinner for the group.
Okay.
So you have murder, cannibalism. You have the servants turn out to be aliens who then kill Dr. Frankenfurter, a couple of other people, and tell Brad, Janet, and Dr. Scott, get out because we're going home. And unless you want to come to our planet with us, you need to leave.
Right. Okay. It's definitely science fiction, and there is a murder and cannibalism. So I like your definition of, because that's horror. That is horrible. People, there shouldn't be murder and cannibalism, and it should be slightly uncomfortable. So I just I forgot about the murder. I remember when the building took off and that the staff was
Aliens.
suspect. Yes.
Favorite
songs?
God. Let's see. Love Time Warp. I think everybody loves Time Warp. I have to say that one of my other ones is actually Eddie's Teddy, which is one that people forget is in there. And it's the song that this is one of the only songs Dr. Scott actually gets to sing on. And it's the whole idea of explaining, well, it's not too bad he died because he was a bad kid. And because Dr.
hilarious.
Scott was Eddie's uncle.
Right.
And people don't realize exactly how many famous people have been in different productions of Rocky Horror. Craig Ferguson was in the revival in the 90s on London's West End. When they did the revival in 2000, that was special, special charity 2-week event. Joan Jett was Columbia. Adam Ruekberg played Eddie in the TV when they did it for TV. Sebastian Bach from Skid Row, right? Riffraff in a production. They did a series of charity ones where the criminologist, some people call him the criminologist, some people call him the narrator, where Danny DeVito played him. Jack Nicholson played him once. These are all this is like one of those musicals that it is so into pop culture that everybody wants to be in it at some point. Right. This is one of my goals, is to, at some point, I want to put up the musical, either this one or my next favorite one, which is Evil Dead. Right. I'll be honest, I've done everything you can do in the theater other than music direct. Okay. I have been on stage. I've done lighting. I've done sound. I've done props. I've stage managed. That's how I met my husband, was stage managing. Cool. And I've directed. Yeah. The only thing I have not done is music direction because I can't play an instrument. Right. Yeah. But
probably get over that. You understand where the ship needs to go. You probably direct it. Push came to shove. Yeah, so let's talk about, we have about 10 minutes left. Is that right? Okay. No, I think we have 15. Wow. Yeah. So I can't remember where we're at. But tell me about Evil Dead. The music Evil Dead is with that very famous,
Sam Raimi, Bruce Campbell was the original movie.
Bruce Campbell, I think, is who I'm thinking of, and Sam Raimi. Okay. Yeah, I don't know anything about either of those two guys, except for I think I would recognize Bruce Campbell if I saw him. So, well,
Evil Dead the musical. Now, beginning of the 2000s, this falls under this whole thing about people deciding, hey, I want to write a musical about something. There have been, besides Evil Dead the musical, there have been Texas Chainsaw Musical, Silence, which is about Silence of the Lambs.
Okay.
Heathers, which actually I think, I don't remember if it made it all the way to Broadway. I know it was at least off Broadway for a long time. The girl who played Veronica was phenomenal. She then went on to be in Mean Girls on Broadway.
Okay.
American Psycho, which this will appeal to the nerds or the other nerds out there who like Doctor Who. Okay. Because if you listen to the London cast recording, the Patrick Bateman, who is the lead, who is a total psychopath,
Yep.
Was played by Matt Smith, that everybody knows as the 11th Doctor.
Okay. That's awesome.
So,
Nice
but
crossover.
you think of him as fez and bow ties are cool. You don't think of him as let me go kill people. So, but Evil Dead the musical, even if you're not, yes, it's scary, it's bloody. They actually have a splash zone when you go.
Oh God. Okay.
And it's actually there's actually a tour going on right now. It's going to be in New Hampshire in August, and I'm trying to get tickets for one of the performances where I can sit in the splash zone.
Has it been filmed too, or is this just on stage so far? Evil Dead the musical.
It was filmed.
Okay.
However, I think you can find it on YouTube as well.
Okay.
And I will tell you, yes, it's bloody. Yes, it's scary. However, it's also funny enough that I think you would still enjoy it because I know you don't do horror.
Right. But is Evil Dead, I feel like it's the story of Evil Dead is zombies. Is it a zombie theme?
Kandarian demons.
They're just loosely, casually, what kind of demons? I'm sorry.
They're called Kandarian demons. It goes through, you have Evil Dead, you have Evil Dead 2, which are both part of Evil Dead the musical.
Okay.
Then you have Army of Darkness, is when Ash, the hero from Evil Dead 1 and Evil Dead 2, ends up in a time rift, ends up going back to where this all started.
Okay.
Then since then you have the reboot of Evil Dead. You have the Evil Dead Rise, which only came out a couple of months ago. Evil Dead, the movies, yes, there is some funniness to at least the Bruce Campbell ones, but they are scary. They are the ones who started the whole, like the first person with the maniac coming after you with you looking from the monster's point of view, not just the people around.
Okay. Yeah. Did the movies didn't come before the musical, did they?
Yes, they did. They're long before the
Okay, and the musical is the first two movies.
Yes. The musical came out in 2003. It was started by actually a Canadian kind of a comedy improv troupe decided to write it. And they got the blessing of Sam Raimi and Bruce Campbell, who have actually gone to some of the performances. Since 2003, when the musical came out in Canada, it has been done almost been done consistently since it came out.
Okay.
It's actually considered to be the longest running musical in Toronto, Canada right now.
Okay. And so what is the story of Evil Dead and Evil Dead? Well, Evil Dead the musical, I guess, directly.
Okay. Standard horror movie fare. You got 5 college students who decide to go to an isolated cabin in the woods to go party for a weekend. What they don't realize is that down in the basement there is a recording and there is a book, which is the Necronomicon, which when they bring it up and they're looking at it and they decide, hey, what does this say? Let me read it out loud. Which is how people start getting possessed. And music in this, like I said, it's scary, but it's also super funny. And pretty much every song is a different style of music.
Okay.
Cabin in the Woods is the first song, which is about, it actually goes, we're 5 college students in an old abandoned cabin in the woods. And it's talking about drinking and partying. And look, it's an abandoned cabin. We're going to have fun. And then
Quick question. Just logistically, when writing such a thing, 5 college students. I went to college. I drank like a fish. We didn't need to go to a cabin in the woods. And the thing is were they going to go hiking? Were they going to go canoeing? Was this people who were like, we're going to do outdoors activity? I always wonder, what's the backstory of this?
One of them, it does plan on, I'm going to go hiking. I'm going to go sunbathe. The other ones, it's, hey, we found this abandoned cabin in the woods. We can go party where we don't have to spend any money.
Okay, so it's just, I mean,
they broke in.
they broke in to their deaths. But here's the thing, is like, it makes you, the only reason, in my opinion, without any, if I were writing it, I would write about 5 college kids who are like, let's go party in the woods. And then they'd all look at each other and they're like, orgy. That's what, I mean, the thing is it sounds like they want to break in, maybe you drink too much alcohol and then see each other in noodly bits. That's, I mean, it feels
Except
like
that 2 of the people involved are brother and sister.
Ew. See, I don't approve of that. I'm going to take a stand, you guys, against incest. That's what I'm like. You heard it here first. Jackie Cation, youngest of 6. One of the greatest things of my childhood. Nobody cared that much. Good for them. Okay. So gross. Okay. So anyway, so they break in, the 5 of them, and then they read the Necronomicon out loud. And then all of a sudden they start getting possessed and burst into
One
song.
of them gets possessed and
Okay.
oops, hold on a second.
Mm-hmm.
And one of, and it goes from there. It actually gets crazy. They have a lot, there's a lot of, this is also the one where the guy, his hand gets possessed, cuts it off. They put a chainsaw on his hands. So.
Okay. Weird. And what's the music like?
Oh, it's also, there's a tango, which is, please excuse the language, which is called What the Fuck Was That? Is a tango.
Okay.
There is a great, 50s style doo-wop, which is called All the Men in My Life Keep Getting Killed by Kandarian Demons. There is a song called Do the Necronomicon, which actually makes fun of the time warp.
I was going to say, it sounds like the time warp song.
And they actually have a line in it that goes, it's just like the time warp. What? Only better. So.
Okay. Does anyone get out alive? Is there the
only person who gets out alive is Ash. He's the only one who survives. Yeah, he's the only one who survives in both movies.
Isn't there a trope in horror movies where there's always one woman who lives?
That's called Final Girl, and that's normal, but this is one of those ones where it was like turned it on its head.
Good for them. Good for them. So not Final Girl, but Ash lives. And Ash is played by Bruce, right?
Bruce Campbell, yes.
There we go. Okay. And, so how do they kill each other while possessed? Is that what they do?
Yes. Scott, who is the obnoxious best friend of Ash, gets killed out in the woods. They end up shooting Shelley, who is Scott's date. And Ash ends up having to kill his sister and his girlfriend.
Okay.
Also, in the second act, the girl who owns the house and her fiance actually come back, and they end up and Ash is trying to explain the dead bodies, and that's when they come back. People come back again as demons, and the girlfriend and her fiance and their guide end up getting killed as well.
Wow.
There's another great song, which is Bit Part Demon, which is the guy who is the boyfriend / fiance of the girl who owns the house doesn't get to say more than 4 words in a row without getting cut off. And so he has a song about, he's like, I'm a demon now. And they're like, we're not scared of your bit part demon. And he does this whole song and dance thing about, I'm a bit part demon. So.
Okay. I love that. Now we have a couple of minutes left. let me ask the real question of the theater nerd in front of me, Carolyn Kahn.
Yeah.
Do you go to, so do you watch a lot of this stuff? Do you have the DVDs? Do you watch it on PBS?
Okay.
And do you go to New York City? And the answer is probably yes to all of them. I don't know.
Not really New York, because I
Okay.
live right by both Boston and Providence.
Okay.
And Boston, you have the Opera House, you have the Wang. In Providence, you have what's known as PPAC, Providence Performing Arts Center, which I will tell you, if you ever have a chance, go, if you're ever in Rhode Island, walk into PPAC just to see how it looks, because it is an absolutely gorgeous theater inside. It is an old school Art Deco theater.
Neat.
So,
Okay. So they have plenty of great local theater in large cities right by you. So you don't have to go to New York. And
I'm a New Englander born and bred.
all right. And the only time I've ever been to Rhode Island, I went there, an old friend of mine took me to a diner, I think outside of Providence or in Providence. And it looked like literally, it was all women in their 70s and 80s, and they were made up. They had their hair done, pearls. They were wearing perfume. They looked like the widows of mobsters, is what they all looked like. They looked like they were all
Well,
out.
if you were on Federal Hill, there's a good chance they were.
It was amazing. I was like, I would like to film and every single one of these ladies and hear them tell me a story about how they didn't know exactly what he did, but he always paid the mortgage. Anyway, this has been fascinating. What are you going to see? Is there anything you're looking forward to going to see besides the making the haunt?
I'm going, like I said, hopefully, I'm trying to get the Splash Zone, go up to Nashua, New Hampshire to go see Evil Dead.
Right.
Also, I'm keeping my eyes open because, well, actually, this is kind of a silly thing, but
this is the safest place for it.
Because it's not a horror musical, but I'm looking into, I might be an extra in a regular musical that's being filmed here in Massachusetts. I signed up to be on the list, but
which one?
It's actually a brand. It's going to be on Amazon in the fall. It's called the other Christmas Show, which is really crazy and campy, and it's about theater and music and LARPing and
all the things.
Different theater companies getting into a fight with each other. So
here's the craziness. You've been able to hear me through this entire thing, right?
Yes, I have.
I just checked my mic and it was sort of half off. So here's what I'm really hoping, Rangers of the Dork Forest, is that my side of this was recorded. Otherwise, this is going to be a very cryptic episode, almost spooky, of the Dork Forest. Carolyn Kahn, everybody, has been on the Dork Forest, and it's been a delight. So everyone, her husband, Average Joel, Joel, go to, what is it, Reverb
Nation,
or just on Facebook and look for his stuff. hopsartscenter.org is where you're going to make the haunt. And
it's the weekend before Halloween.
Okay. And go see and go to PBS and watch any number of productions of creepy plays that have been musicalized. Thanks so much for being on the show, Carolyn.
Thank you for having me.
And Rangers, you know the rules out there. Take care of each other.
My hat, my hat, my hat. They're dancing around my hat, my hat, my hat, my hat. Well, what do you think of that? If it looks like a Mexican hat dance and it sounds like a Mexican hat dance, it's most likely a Mexican hat dance. So take off your hat and let's dance.
Yay! Oh my God. Why don't we just call that as the end of the show?